Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Mother Load. I am here with Janine, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. And today we are just going to let the conversation flow to wherever it needs to flow, and you will receive whatever you need to receive from it. So, Janine, I will let you introduce yourself, and we will just jump right in.
You betcha. So I am a wife and a mom. Our kids are, how old are they now? Grade 5 and grade 3. So it feels like the baby days were a million years ago, and it feels like it was just yesterday. Um, yeah, it's crazy how time can fly. And then in my other world, same world, other world, different hat. I also do empowerment coaching for women, and I'm a Reiki practitioner. So tying in all of my experiences with motherhood and just with being a woman and helping other women on their journey. I should also mention too, I'm actually a classroom teacher by trade. So I feel like I weave a little bit of that experience as well into all of the things I do, whether it's at home parenting or with my clients as well. So all of that, all
All
of
of
that.
that, all of that leading to who Janine is as an authentic person.
Yes.
Um, let's start off with some of the heaviest parts of motherhood and how you've waded some of those deep waters.
Yes. So I actually just posted about this on Instagram the other day because it just kept coming up for me. And I remember, like, I feel like my dream, like a lot of us, was like, I just want to be a mom, right? We have this like vision of how it's going to go. And we had all of the conversations about like, what stroller do you buy and what crib, should we get and which room should the nursery be? And like, we had all of those conversations for sure. And I'm going to come back to that. So I'm just like planting that seed. But I remember when I had my son, I, as a planner, it's funny because I didn't really have a birth plan. I was just like, "Just gonna, like, go to the hospital and have this baby." I had no idea really what I wanted or how things were gonna go, because I was not connected to me at all. It was like I was like a separate being from this experience, right? And so, had my son, it wasn't, the smoothest birth, and I remember we had all kinds of issues with feeding, and we stayed in the hospital for 4 days, and I remember driving home from the hospital. My husband was driving, I was sitting in the back seat, and I cried the whole way home, and he was like, "What is wrong with you? Like, why are you crying?" And I remember thinking, "I'm not gonna be able to keep this child alive because my body is not allowing me to feed it."
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking like, "He's going back to work, like, tomorrow. What am I going to do?" And I think that was the beginning of me not realizing, but experiencing a whole lot of ways that I felt like my body was not supporting this new life that I was supposed to be taking care of. And it was about 3 months in, and I was out on a walk just by myself. Baby was at home with my husband, and I called one of my girlfriends who we weren't super close, but she was a nurse, and that's why I phoned her. She lived out of town. I phoned her, and I think I was just looking for somebody in the medical field to say whatever, to say it was going to be fine or whatever. I think we were talking about like a colicky baby. Anyways, and she said to me, Janine, do you feel like you're resenting being a mom? Do you feel like you're resentful to your son? And I was like, oh my God, yes. And I hadn't been able to put a name to how I was feeling, but I think that was one of the heaviest pieces that I had to work through was realizing that like I couldn't just pick up and do whatever I wanted anymore and that I had to be on call 24/7 to somebody else. I think that was probably the first really big piece of like, whoa, life like I know used to know it is not the same anymore. And like, what do I do about this? How do I accept that and move on in a way that works for me and for my family? So I think that was one of the really big pieces that I had to figure out. And I think it's a piece that a lot of moms go through. And we just maybe don't talk about it enough.
Yes. Yeah. How was, now that it's like behind you, how was the resentment showing up in your relationship with your son and maybe with your husband as well?
Ooh, I was mad at my husband all of the time. I was mad because I felt like he wasn't doing enough around the house. He wasn't doing enough to help me. How come he can't read my mind? Like, I just need help with this and this and this. And like, is he an idiot? Like, how come he can't figure that out? You know what I mean? Like, I was mad at him all of the time, but I wasn't expressing that. I didn't know how to ask for what I needed. So I would just do it all and like carry it like a badge of honor. Like, look at me, I can do everything, and then go to bed mad every single night.
Yeah.
Um, it was showing up with my son in frustration all the time. I remember like laying him down on his change table and thinking like, I just fed you. You can't possibly need to eat again. Like, I need a moment to breathe. And so I felt like there was a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. Um, and I wasn't happy. Wasn't happy at all. I was just like going through the motions, being like, when will this be different? When will this feel good? That's how it was showing up.
Yeah. And when did that shift happen?
Mm. Whew, when did that shift happen? Um, like years later,
Yeah.
because I had no coping mechanisms whatsoever. I didn't it could have happened like in minutes. If I had actually something like this where I could have had support, I could have had a group to access, I could have had somebody in my corner saying, "You know what? This happened to me and here's what I did." But I didn't talk about it.
Mhm.
I didn't have a lot of friends at that time that had babies, and if they did, their version of what was happening was like, "Oh, look at me. I love being a mom," all the things, and so I was like, "Whoa, I am not having the same experience. There must be something wrong with me." So I didn't talk about it. I didn't ask for support. And it wasn't until years later when I started down a growth journey and like really getting reconnected with me that I realized, "Oh, it doesn't have to be this hard. Like, it doesn't have to feel like this. It can feel a lot lighter," which was one of the reasons that it led me to doing some of this work with women, because I didn't want anybody else to have to feel the way that I did.
Oh, that's so powerful, Janine. For me, it was 2 years. It
Mm,
was, and that like that resentment, I literally remember feeling it as soon as my son exited my body. And it was
mm,
like the nurses like handed him to me, and I was like, oh no, this person is a stranger. Like,
mhm.
mm-mm, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a really what I didn't know then moments, was that the onset of whatever version of postpartum depression and anxiety I was experiencing on whatever scale, because I can't know because we didn't
Mhm.
go down that path at the time. Um,
Right.
is that it happens that quickly. Like
Yeah.
you can go from pregnant and planning that nursery in the most Pinterest way possible to now you are responsible for human life.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
human life is going to demand things of you that nobody else has ever demanded of you before.
Mhm. Yeah, and I remember thinking, like, if this kid would just take a bottle, then this could be my husband's problem, you know? But that isn't exactly how it worked either, because if I go back to that whole, like, conversation thing, yeah, we had all those conversations, and I know you and I have talked about this too. We had all those conversations around, like, yeah, the Pinterest perfect nursery and all the things, but we didn't talk about what was gonna happen if I could no longer breastfeed, and, who was gonna make the bottles and who was gonna get up in the night, and, what was gonna happen when I was so exhausted I was just, like, laying on the floor crying. Like, we didn't have any of those conversations. We didn't talk about how the money piece was going to work. We didn't talk about what we were going to do to nurture our relationship. We didn't talk about, you know, like, what's his idea of a fun day playing with the kids? What's that going to look like? It was none of those conversations happened. And so I went from all of these feelings inside of me to like almost making up stories of what I thought he must be thinking because we weren't talking about it.
Mhm.
Right. And so you let that go on for years. And then all of a sudden it's like, who are these people anymore? Who are these people in my world? This is not the relationship that I initially stepped into.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's amazing how quickly things can change, and it's just kind of it can be this um like landslide of all these things that then transpire. But the beautiful thing is that you can come back from that just as quickly. The switch on that can be just as quick once you have the tools and the support in place.
Tell me about that middle piece before you tell me about the tools, that middle
Mhm.
piece, that the ugly trudging through the sludge,
Ugh.
starting to ask for what you need, starting to command things of your time and your needs, and that your rest needs matter and your emotional
Mhm.
needs matter, and you're not going to literally bear this weight anymore. Tell me about the middle, and then we'll get to the tools.
Okay, the middle looked a lot like Janine trying to be the teacher. And I would hear that a lot. I'm not your student, quit trying to teach me things, right?
Mhm.
And so it looked like I was being the student and the teacher at the same time. I was learning things about how to sort of support me and maybe what were things I could ask for, because I had no idea. So I was learning about what I needed and then trying to figure out how to ask for that at the same time. And honestly, it was like trudging through the mud. It was like Janine was like having this learning curve where, you know, Janine going this way, and then her husband was like, what's actually happening here? I'm going to stay here. And for a long time, I was like, is he going to follow me up this hill? Does he want to grow too? Are we going to grow together? And that was another piece that nobody talks about, right? So it felt like a scary place to be because I felt like, how come it seemed to me like I was doing all the growing. Truthfully, he was also growing.
Mm.
It just looked different. It looked like just because I read this book and put a sticky note on a certain page and left it on the table and then he walked past it forever didn't mean that he wasn't interested in growing or learning. It meant that he was doing his own learning and growing in his own way. And I didn't need to be in charge of that because what I needed and what he needed was different.
Yes.
And how I was,
You did not need to be in charge of that.
no, I didn't. And it was important for me to let go of that and to release that control because the more I tried to control what I thought he should be learning or changing or doing, or different ways I thought he should be stepping up to the plate, it wasn't serving either of us because it was just this like constant resistance. He didn't want to be told what to do. He is an individual as well who is capable of learning and growing. And for so long, I enabled. And I think this is such a common thing. We do that like, I've got it. I can do it all. I don't need your help, all the things. And so I did all the things. And then then later on I look back and I was like, whoa, I enabled for a really long time. Like, I can't be upset with you because you don't know how to pack the kids' lunches in the way that I want them packed. There's so many things wrong with that statement right there. But you know what I mean? It's like, if I don't ever give you that opportunity and take that off my plate, how will you ever step up to the plate to do it? It's not even an option for you because I have taken control over that. So a big part of trudging through this was figuring out, like, do I actually need to have control over that?
Mm.
Or is it okay to let that go? Can you load the dishwasher differently than me and we still end up with clean dishes? You know, just like a very simple example. But I think as moms, and especially as new moms, there's such a loss of that feeling of control. So
Yes.
much changes in our body, so much changes with our hormones and our mindset and everything. It's like we are like death gripping anything we can to control things that feel normal for us. And so I think it's very common that it's like, yeah, we're just controlling as much as we can and we take that away from our partners. So
Mhm.
that was kind of
Sounds
the
like
mess.
a really, like, we all do it in a way to cope, right? Like, I
Yes.
don't think anybody sets out being like, "I'm gonna emasculate you because you don't load the dishwasher properly, or you don't know how
Right.
to give the kids a bath or pack a backpack to go to grandma's." Like,
Yeah.
it's not like we intend to do that. It's something that we do out of desperation, in coping, in feeling out of control, out of sorts, not knowing
Yeah.
who we are. Who are you? Who are we? Who is this
Right.
stranger who I have to keep alive? Like,
Yes.
and
Well, and
all
then
the time. Like,
on
your kids
top,
still have to eat. Like, they
yes, it gets worse as they get older. Just saying. With, a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, now it's like now I'm in the stage of like I still need to feed you, but I kind of want you to feed yourself.
Yes.
So it's like it's a constant evolution. But the piece of, like we're not trying to emasculate them. However, when when we Oh, where did my thought go? Come back to me. When we allow them that opportunity to just do the things, we really have to make sure that we also release that, like, whatever comes with it. So it's like I was talking about this morning with a client actually. I was saying like it's almost I looked at almost like parenting another person because when we start to give them back that control of like just it like you handle it. I trust you. You can do it. However it comes out is going to be fine. They also sometimes need that praise after the fact, which sounds ridiculous,
Yes.
but if we've taken those pieces away for so long and not allowed them to help us at all, they need that validation that they're doing it right too,
Mhm.
and that that we do trust them and that it is okay. And as soon as we start to give those little pieces of validation, all of a sudden it's like they want to do more for us. They truly want to support us. That's why they got into this with us in the first place, but they also don't know how. And
Yes.
they're not reading the books usually. They're not asking for support. So they need somebody to say, "Hey, that was awesome. You handled that really well." So, yeah.
Yes. John Gottman, who's a relationship, I call him a relationship guru, but that's like totally like dismissing all of his credibility. It's like he's amazing. He runs these marital labs in the States, and he's been researching, like literally frontline researching relationships for 30 years.
Mhm.
And um he has a saying that like someone always has to be grateful first.
Mhm.
And
So
the
true.
person who is doing the growing often has to be the one to be grateful first.
Yeah.
Even though for years they've been shitting the bed because they don't know how, like, because they don't know
Yep.
how to pack the lunches. They've never
Yep.
done it. You've always done it.
Yep.
And there was this weird switch in our relationship when I went back to work with our second son.
Mm.
And my husband happened to be off because of other work circumstances that were super stressful, but he was at home and I
Yep.
was at work. And I would come home, and about after 2 weeks, I'd be like, "I haven't done a load of laundry, like, in 2 fucking weeks. I have not done a load of laundry." But the laundry's done, but I haven't noticed that the laundry was being done, right?
Mm.
And so it
Yep.
was like, this is really not my arena. Like, this isn't my arena anymore.
Yep.
Like, he's doing the laundry, he's doing the dishes, he's cooking, he's loading the dishwasher, and he's feeling resentful towards me because I
Mhm.
haven't put in a load of laundry in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right? And there
Yeah.
was there was this actual flip, and I was like, this is what it's like to be in your brain. Like, this is what it's like to be the man
Yeah.
in a stereotypical relationship, in a
Right.
nuclear kind of family. Like,
Yeah.
I have always been the doer. I'm the first one to pick up a hammer to go fix something in the house. Like, he's not the doer. It's
Yeah.
not in his personality. He'll never be the doer. It's something that I've had to grow to accept and love, hate.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I'm always the one who's going to be like, no, we need to like fasten the dresser to the wall in this way, and I'm just like, either you do it or I do it, but
Yeah.
it needs to be done.
Mhm.
And it was that flip was so interesting. And we've had lots of really great conversations about that since. But um it's just when you're not home and you're not doing the primary child rearing, it's
Mhm.
literally not part of your worldview. It's
No,
not
you
part of your
you
routine.
just
If you've
yeah, just don't
never
even
packed
think of
a
it.
lunch before, you literally don't know what goes inside of a lunchbox.
Right.
Like, you don't
Yes.
know what sandwich your kid likes to eat, you don't know how they want it cut, you don't know that they want the peel off the apple, not
Yeah.
on the apple, like, you literally don't know because you're not doing it. You're
Yeah.
literally not the person in the kitchen doing the cutting.
And I think it's easier sometimes, like, it's hurtful for them.
Yes.
Like, I've watched it play out where it's like the kids want me to do whatever the thing is because not only do I know how they want it, but I have grown to a place where it's not about me. Even if I don't really care if you want the peel on or not, if I know that you prefer it a certain way, I'm just going to do that because that's just now the person that I am. I want you to have it the way you want to have it, right? And so to witness the kids wanting me to do something for them and not dad to do it because they know full well that dad's just going to do it, whereas mom's going to do it the way they want it in a way that makes them feel really good. It can be really hurtful to dad
Mhm.
to be a part of that. And I think that's an invitation for the dads to go, Like, is it more important that, like, what's important to me?
Mhm.
That, my kids feel really good about the way that I'm doing things for them? Or, is my pride of just like, well, I'm just going to do it this way, like what's more important? And I think that's a process that they have to go through too as they start to take on more of these things, because you're right. We do, being the one at home, being the doer, we do know all those little ins and outs. We do bedtime differently. We do, and I held on to that for a long time. I was like, "No, I have to be at home at bedtime because I know how my kids like it, and I feel horrible if I can't be there to give that to them or to do that a certain way." They're still alive the next day. It's going to be fine, and it's a good experience for them too, to just to allow them the opportunity for it to play out different. It doesn't have to be the same way all the time.
Yeah. And allowing, I'm gonna say, allowing your children to have a relationship with your partner that is not
Yes.
your responsibility.
Yes.
Like you as a human are not responsible for the intricate dynamics that exist between child and your partner.
Yeah.
Whether you disagree or outright will defend some of the things that you feel are wrong in the lifestyle or the treatment, going on in your home in terms of discipline, or like you said, like cutting the crust off the sandwiches. Like I'm
Yeah.
just going to do it because that's how you want it done. And I'm okay with cutting the crust off. Like I'm not going to argue about this.
Yeah.
I just want you to eat. The end result is that you eat. So I just don't care if you have
Yeah.
crust on. And something that has really grown in our relationship is that I no longer take responsibility for my child's hurt because of the way he's parented by my partner. In the
Yes.
exact same way that my partner does not take responsibility over my treatment of the children when I feel shame or when it's gone awry or when I've lost my shit. Like he doesn't take responsibility for that.
Right. So
Like
we don't need to either.
he might have a conversation with me that's like, whoa, where did that come from? Like we need to have a conversation about that. And like, are your needs being met? Do you need to have a bath? What's going on here?
Yeah.
But like it's not his responsibility. He doesn't go behind my back and say, Mommy was in a bad mood and la 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 la. Like,
Yeah.
and you can do that in a repair attempt, right? Like I think we should all be checking in with our kids when we do things that are losing our minds.
Yeah.
Um, but he never does it cross his mind that he needs to take responsibility for that and like curate and cater like their
Yeah.
experience as children.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speak Janine to now where you're at. So we started in this like really murky, resentful way. We hit some sludge in the middle and now share, how things are now and some of the ways that they're lighter.
So meditation and journaling were two things that I was like, only weird people do those. Like, only those weird art people, right?
Yes.
Only they do those things, right? Um, I had been exposed to those weird things for years. And until I accepted that it was possible that that could bring me some peace and some clarity, it didn't work for me. But tapping into meditation and journaling has been a remarkable change for sure. So much so that both of my kids ask for a meditation before bed more often than not. If I happen to be doing a meditation, they might want to sit with me. It's become just a normal thing in our house. So really taking that time, a lot of times we'll be out with friends, and if my kids are having a meltdown or whatever, it's common that I will say, like, just like focus on your breath. And I've had other parents turn and look at me like, what in the heck? And I'm like, no, like that's a normal thing we say at our house. Like, just go back to your breathing, like, just focus on your breath. Um, and so making some of those things that really worked for me a normal piece of our household
Mm.
has been night and day difference. Communication has been everything. We went from like, I don't know. I felt like we had like a pretty normal relationship, I guess. Then we had kids and then things got messy, and I very much felt like I was out of control, and I felt like I kept a lot of secrets. When I
Mm.
was on mat leave, I kept all kinds of secrets, and we've always done our money very separate. So, yes, we have our joint account where the things come out of, but there's always been a lot of pieces that didn't come out of there. And so it was like, well, who buys the snowsuits? Who buys the groceries? Like things like that. And I felt like I kept a lot of secrets for a long time, especially as I used to run a network marketing company. And so when I started that business, there were a lot of expenses. And because we had separate money, technically I could do whatever I wanted as long as I was still paying my part of the bills, and I didn't have to answer to anybody, which looking back was actually a really horrible thing
Yeah.
because it stopped the communication about money. And I think when you stop communicating about money, you stop communicating about a lot of things. And so, in that really messy, yucky part, there was a lot of non communication happening. And so, as I started to grow and as I started to learn and evolve and tap into meditation and journaling and really get some clarity there, I gained trust with myself again. And I really built that self love to know that, like, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm going to be okay.
Mm.
And if I can talk about these things with him, we're either going to be okay or we're not going to be okay. And I can't control that. All I can control is me. And so, really getting to a place of like safety within allowed me to start that conversation with him again. And it's like night and day difference. Now we plan those things together. Now we talk about those things together. We're at a stage now, like as our oldest is start like slowly getting into like his preteens and all of that, where there are a lot of conversations that need to come up, and we need to make sure we're on the same page ish with how we're going to handle those things, even when it comes to like more technology use and like, do you get a cell phone, do you not get a cell phone, like all of those kind of things. Like we need to be somewhat on the same page. And so really focusing on our communication has made all of the difference. And um to start conversations even when we're in a place of not being on the same page,
Mm.
to
Mhm.
be accepting of each other, to say like, I'm feeling afraid to talk about this, but I need to get some of these things out, and to be able to accept where each other is at and know that we might not be at the same point right now, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. So the communication piece has been huge. And then carrying that forward, and I know for me, I have made a point to carry that forward with my kids. So as they're really helping them to like experience their emotions, but also express them. And I think, I don't really feel like I was taught how to do that growing up, and I think a lot of people would relate to that. It's like you cry, you go to your room, or, you're mad, you go to your room, right? You don't get to have the chance to sit down and talk about it. And so, my younger one is very emotional, and my older one is very high anxiety. And so, as I worked through my emotions and my anxiety and all the pieces, it taught me that I can take those same things and teach my kids how
Mm.
to handle it in the exactly the same way. And so, yeah, building communication up with my kids too and having that open communication, that's what has shifted. It's the communication piece for sure.
Awesome. Oh, so many good things can come from just like open, vulnerable communication. Like, and
Mhm.
it's vulnerable to say to somebody like, okay, so this is where I'm at and I'm not doing so great.
Yeah.
Or, hey, that thing you did last week, like that's not really acceptable for how I want to live in a marriage or in a family. Or, you really made me feel like shit about this. Or like, oh God, I was the asshole. All right. Okay,
Mhm.
I'll own that. Yep,
Yeah.
I was being less than kind to you and you didn't deserve that or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
those.
and if we go first, they do follow.
Mhm.
We show them that it's safe. Once we learn that it is safe to be within us and it is safe to honor those emotions, and then we learn that it's safe to start to share, we're modeling that for our partners and our kids. And they start to see like, oh, it is okay to talk about these things. And I think it helps them to open up the conversation as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Janine, thank you for this juicy conversation. I really,
Mhm.
really appreciate you being here today. And for all of you listening and or watching at home, I really hope that you got whatever you needed from this conversation. I think there's lots of little things that that will resonate for you specifically in your situation. And as always, if anything makes you feel wide open or you're feeling like you need some support, please let me know. And I will see you next month. Thank you so much, Janine, for being here with us today.
You bet. Thanks, Kayla.